and they'll have annual ryegrass.
Well, annual ryegrass will grow anywhere, but it's
and they can put anything in that bag. They're not required for it to grow in shape if they put it in that bag. Here, trust where you're buying your product.
Right.
And ask questions.
Yeah. Even from Trey.
Even for me, but.
Hey everybody, my name's Cayman, and today we are at Dickens Turf Talk. We've got a couple of topics about overseeding this fall season. I've got a few experts on the panel today. To my right, I got Trey Hartstuck, Mr. Drew Sullivan, and Mr. Jason Benefield. Guys, I got some questions for you.
Let's roll it.
All right. First topic of conversation is site prep. What is it? Why is it important?
Well, I guess the number one thing about site prep is you got to go out there. A lot of these really upscale yards are irrigated, right? So if we're talking site prep, we'll talk everything from the minute that you get the idea of overseeding in your mind all the way until the end. One really important thing in site prep is going out there and making sure that, because with an aerator, especially like the ones that we rent out, that we sell, we'll just say the Stinger, for instance, those things are going to get deep. They're going to pull a deep core.
Yep.
And so with that being said, a lot of low voltage lighting are in those areas, a lot of irrigation heads. So anybody that's got irrigation has to go out and mark those. So as far as site prep goes, that's probably your first step, is to make sure that all your low voltage wiring is out of the way and that your irrigation heads are marked. And then from there, you want to go out there and kind of get a plan. When it comes to aerating, you really want to have a plan of how you're going to do your yard to get a really good, because you really want to pull those cores. That's such an important thing in Tennessee with the compaction that we deal with here. Aeration is probably the most important thing that we do. Don't you think, Drew?
For sure. You've got to get oxygen to the soil. I mean, it's that plant root's the most important thing. You got to have a good home for it. So when you start slacking on your preparation, you're going to start getting less odds of being successful with your overseed or even with a new lawn. You've got to get that soil in good shape to where you can have a good seed bed, get rid of big clods, get rid of your rock, whatever you've got in the soil. But yeah, the site prep by far is the most important thing, that you don't need to skip it. You would never plant a vegetable garden without tilling.
Right.
Or if you did, you're not going to be successful with it. And these seed are even smaller than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and site prep is very important because this time of year, which we're September, you want to clean up any weeds you want to try to get rid of. If you have Bermuda you're trying to get rid of because you're wanting fescue, you can go out there, do a little spraying and things like that. I think the thing that gets overlooked some is site evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
So before we do prep, I think we need to start with site evaluation. Are you full sun? Do you have trees? Is it shady?
Yep.
Like what can we do to, are we picking the right plant for the right place? Do that and then worry about, prep after that. But seed to soil contact's the key. I mean, germination's not going to happen if seed don't touch soil. So I mean, that's the key to that.
Well, and with the new Sublime, right? The new product that came out, that's the miso, and it's got a little trichlopyr in it. Because a lot of people were kind of timid right now because they didn't want to get their overseed window pushed back. But that chemical has allowed people to be able. Obviously, the drawback with straight miso was the whiteout. People weren't a huge fan of that whiteout. But now you can use the product that we love, that we sell a ton of, Sublime, and you can go out there and really clean it up with that and seed the same day. Mm-hmm. So that's really cool. And that takes a lot of stress off people, because people are like, hey, I really do need to clean up probably, but I really don't want that whiteout to stick around for 3 weeks or so. Because if you're heavy with some weeds and you got some Bermuda out there, that miso just kind of seems to hang out white for a little while. So that new Sublime product has been out for a couple of years. That's really changed the game.
Yeah.
Oh, one other thing is thinking through all the steps, but if you're overseeding, you've got a pretty good fescue lawn, you need to think about your mowing and getting that existing turf down. Don't be afraid to scalp it down. We're at the time of year where it's going to grow and it's going to grow back. So make it to where you might not have to mow for 2 or 3 weeks. Cut it back. Even maybe use a growth retardant.
Mm-hmm.
That's something else to consider before you go out and oversee.
lot of people deal with too, because the question that we get asked a ton is like, okay, so let's say that through the summer we were cutting at 4.5, 5 inches, and then we go out there now, we take it to 3.25, whatever the case will be, 3.5, 3 even sometimes, and you'll have the discharge. You'll have a lot of that discharge, and what I tell people is like, hey, we're not going to ask you to do this every time, but before you get ready for AOS, let's do something with that discharge. Like, let's blow it. Let's take our backpack blower, handheld blower, and let's blow that stuff out of the lawn, because we really don't want that grass seed sitting on top of clippings. That's not really ideal for germination. So we get asked that question a fair little bit, and it is a good question. But yeah, I think for the time being, we really need to make sure we get rid of those clippings.
Yeah. Anything else to say on site prep?
Do it.
Do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's important. It's important
Right.
to know what your canvas looks like before you start painting.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's probably the most important step to what you do. The first step is how good it looks at the
Absolutely.
end.
Right,
I mean, that's
right,
the,
right.
That's the key. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The more
And,
you do.
and hey, I'll tell you a big thing that I've seen the results in too is some people would just come in and buy the seed in a high phosphorus starter fertilizer, but I'm telling you that seed, if you put that down in that 535 at that same time initially with the seed, we've seen a ton of quality boost and running the 535 and the grass seed at the same time, and then coming back in 7-10 days with the 9-12-6 organic. And that 535 just really, I don't know, it just, the organics in that really get into the soil, and you can really tell. Turf health is a lot higher when you do that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Next item on the docket is shade lawn establishment. PTT, we talked a lot about our PTT. It does well in sun, does well in shade, but we've also got a shade blend, right? If someone was going to be shading or seeding a shaded area, why would they need to use a different grass?
shade varieties here in Middle Tennessee are kind of a loaded question. And it's like when we sell somebody a mower, the guy come in and say, hey, how's it handle hills? And one guy's heel looks like this, and the next guy's heel looks like that.
Yeah.
One guy's shade is one tree over in the corner. The next guy's shade is he cut a hole in the
80%
forest.
dense, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a loaded question. But the thing with Middle Tennessee is heat is the biggest issue, and so like if you look at shade trials, like if you just went to an in-tap and look at shade trials, fine fescues do better without light. They can tolerate less light, so that's what's in our shade blend. But if you look at shade trials through the southeast, heat is the biggest part of that takes those out. They can handle the shade, but the heat is taking them out. So when you buy a shade blend from Dickens, our shade blend is different than most people's because we have the fine fescues in there for the low light, but we also have some of our turf type in there that we'll see in the PTT. And the way I explain it to people is to try to think about if you pictured you had a tree line in your house, and one end of it was really dense shade, and the other end gets some sunlight.
Right.
If you put that shade mix through that entire tree line, the real shady end, you may see more of the fine fescues. And as you start transitioning to where we're getting a little bit of light, maybe it gets a little hotter through the summer, you'll see more of the turf type. But hopefully through that whole row, you have something, where you're not going to see the. So we're trying to give you something that's going to establish the whole way across. And with shade varieties, you want to establish them in the fall. They don't
Yes.
they don't like heat. The guys that try to do shade varieties in the spring, it's such a race to get any kind of roots under before it gets hot. They don't like that. Like you want to do those in the fall, get them established, get them growing.
And honestly, you want to do them early, is my philosophy in the fall. You want to get it out there and something coming up before you start getting a lot of leaves to fall on it. But back to what Jason was talking about as far as the different varieties or fine fescue or turf type fescue, I've been fortunate enough to go to a lot of experimental turf grass stations, and one particular one, pure seed tested out in Oregon, they have a trial where it's just a grove of white birch trees. It's gorgeous, where they have all different kinds of turf growing under there, in their plots with different blends, and by far the ones that did the best were majority turf type fescue, like our PTT. That's the reason we put 70% turf type fescue in our blend. It's a little bit tougher. Those fine fescues might germinate a little bit quicker, come up, but to keep something established, and think about this too. The plant gets its energy from light. And that's what makes the plant grow. So if you're getting less light, you don't have as much energy.
Yeah.
So you need to watch about how much you feed it. You don't really need to pump a bunch of nitrogen in your shady areas. And like Jason said, what's causing that shade? If you can open it up some, get some dappled light in there, that's going to help. I get excited talking about shade grass. I think you can kind of see that. But I had a lawn one time where it was probably a 10-foot by 40-foot little wing in between some beds. Why didn't I turn it all to beds? I probably could have, but it just looked good with that contrast.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I did nothing but 535 and turf-type fescue in there. Now, it would get a little bit thin in the summertime, and I knew I was going to have to aerate it and overseed it every year, but it stayed alive.
Yeah.
But you don't want to try to force it to feed.
Yeah, to grow. Well, by DNA though, those fine fescues, they're shallow root. They're shallow rooted, right? And then so that just makes it tough, and that's why the heat can be such a deterrent for it, because it can't. Those fine fescues can't really get because their root system is so shallow. It's hard for them to get deep and get nutrients from. And there is some places, unfortunately, and we have to tell homeowners this sometimes, is like there is some places that grass will not grow. You know, when you get into those really, really dense, because you have to have, like, the energy comes from the sun and the soil, and so you have to make sure that, hey, you know, is this somewhere? Because sometimes you got to go ground cover because it just you can't. There's just no way to grow grass. But overall, I think when you talk shade mixes, though, we've had with Drew formulating that blend, we've had as much success as anybody growing grass in the shade.
We put hard fescue in there. We do turf type, creeping red, hard fescue. We might throw some perennial rye in there from time to time, but depending on what's available. But the reason hard fescue's in there, and I know Jason's seen it too, at the place I mentioned, Pure Seed Testing, also has a research farm in Raleigh, North Carolina. They had a huge oak tree out by their office area, huge, and hard fescue under it, just as pretty as you can imagine. So that's why we started putting hard fescue in there. It could take that shade. Now, one thing about it, 6 or 7 inches tall. What do you think, Jason? They kept that?
It's real low maintenance. You don't have to cut it a lot, you know. And I go back. You know, there's a lot of people come in here and they'll say, "Hey, pretty shady. I think I want to do shade varieties," and they're gonna cost you a little more too. So like keep that in mind because they're harder to get. But if a guy's unsure and he's unsure about how much light he's getting, I tell people, it's like, well, let's start with PTT. Just do everything in PTT, and it may look great by the end of next summer. But the grass will show you where it's too shady. You'll start seeing maybe a certain area around those trees or in that corner, wherever the shade's at, where it really thins out. And then we've got those small bags. You can buy a 5-pound bag of shade mix, but maybe we do most of the yard in PTT, and then we touch up those areas that have shown you it's not enough light here. You know, and we go to the shade blend, and then if that's not working, you probably need to go to a ground cover or something other than grass. You know, find some shade-loving plants.
And I'll tell you something else. Not specifically wanting to bash our competition, but just because that bag says shade on it does not necessarily mean it's going to grow. It's going to be a type of seed that's going to grow in the shade. I've looked in the different box stores and whatnot, and they'll have annual ryegrass.
Well, annual ryegrass will grow anywhere, but it's
and they can put anything in that bag. They're not required for it to grow in shade if they put it in that bag. Here, trust where you're buying your product.
Right.
And you know, ask questions.
Even from Trey.
Even for me, but hey, I'll tell you too, it's really the fine and the hard fescues. If you look, 'cause a lot of people ask this on some of the most beautiful golf courses. You know, Bermuda will go as far as it can go, but a lot of times in those tree lines, the green that you still see at the edge of those fairways and stuff will be a hard or fine fescue. So that's kind of somewhere else. If you just want to put the vision with the thought of like that's where you kind of see that set up a lot. So,
well, good deal. Next order of business, we've got some odds and ends for people when they're overseeing. A lot of people have very common questions that we get every day through Dickens. All 10 locations get all these same questions. What height should they cut the grass before overseeding?
I like to scalp it down.
Yeah, I think mowing lower. I mean, it buys you a little time. One, we're trying to get seed through a grass canopy.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you've got a little bit of canopy out there in your existing lawn.
Yep.
You take a little off of that, and now we've opened it up to get the seed to seed to soil contact.
Yep.
So we've lowered that canopy. It buys you a little time before you have to get back on there and mow again. So we can seed, and with these varieties, if you're timing it right as far as weather goes, you can have them up in a week or less.
Yeah,
or you can have a week or so of growth on them before you have to mow again.
Mhm.
So we're all that plays in. But yeah, and maybe don't do it all at once. You can go out there and maybe take it down an inch lower and then wait a few days, maybe drop another half or an inch, whatever. It don't have to be to the dirt, but I mean, I'm like Drew. The lower the better if you can get it done.
Right.
Maybe not pull the
It's-
crown out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna
Plant
grow.
or the-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that also goes with saying, like, that's why it's so important too to take care of those grassy weeds when you're trying to start
Yeah.
getting ready, because I'm gonna tell you, ain't nothing gonna outgrow or outcompete crabgrass. Like, it's gonna grow at a rate a lot higher than what this fescue is gonna grow. So, and that also again will mess up your seed to soil contact, because those grassy weeds are gonna grow. They're gonna be thick. They're gonna seed's not gonna be able to penetrate through there and get to the soil where we want it. So that's why it is so important that you do that fall cleanup before you go out and just start shucking grass seed. Make sure your site's clean and you can get out there. And I know that kind of goes back to where we started, but it is such an important step.
Hugely
But
important.
like Trey has said, there's these chemicals now with miso where you can go the same day.
Yeah.
But if you've got some tough weeds, don't be afraid of glyphosate. You just have to wait.
Well, you
a
got to
week.
lose.
You just have to wait a week, and you're going to overseed.
Yeah.
So don't be scared to use that. It has no soil activity, so you're going to be fine with it.
Yes.
I mean,
Well, hey, I know one question that this is a big question that kind of made me think of that is, like, I know some people too are coming in because right now Bermuda's king. At this time of the season, a lot of times that's the only thing that's really still green. And I tell people, like, hey man, if those spots are starting to take over your lawn, like Drew just brought up, hey, that glyphosate, hey, don't be scared to really patch those out. I mean, I know that your wife might not be happy because you're gonna have big brown spots in your yard, but just tell her, hey, it's gonna be for the greater good.
Right.
The cause is gonna be better at the end because if you're like, I mean, I'm dealing with that in my personal lawn right now. Is like that common Bermuda, man. It's tough once it gets going and it's rolling downhill and you're fertilizing that fescue and using a lot of the organics that it takes. Hey, that Bermuda's a fan too.
Yeah.
It's gonna grow. It likes that stuff just as much. So I'm gonna go out there probably this week at my own house. And those big spots that are starting to get, I'm telling you, man, Bermuda's fun. I mean, you watch it at the beginning of the season, you'll have a spot as big as this table.
Yeah.
And then if you fertilize and do the stuff you're supposed to throughout the summer, I mean, that thing will be 3 times the size, you know, because it loves this warm season environment that we get in June, July, August. I mean, it loves everything about it. So don't be scared to get on those Bermuda spots and hit them with the glyphosate right now.
Yeah. I think I know where all of you guys sit with this next question, but should you overseed in September or October?
I'll take the lead. If I've got one lawn to do, I'm going to have it done the first 15 days of September.
Yeah.
I just think it gives you more time to establish before the weather turns off cool. We're gonna be getting cooler. We're gonna be getting rains.
Yep.
If you look at our weather record or our files of the we get more rainfall in September than we do October.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for natural water, Mother Nature's help, no doubt you're going to get more in September normally than you do October.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just think it's good to get on out there and get it done. Now, I would not put off doing it if I don't get it done in September. I'd do it in October. I'd even go in November before March. I just think you're so much better in the fall. You might have to watch what you do maintenance-wise with your pre-emergence in the next spring if you go down late.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make sure you're established well. But fall definitely, and I like earlier.
Yeah.
I think to put a bow on it or tie it all back together. I mean, I agree 100%. We say the earlier the better, the more roots we can get under it for next year. That's the key. To bring all this together, what we've been talking about today. When can you do it so that you can get your prep done? Mm-hmm. If you just want to run out there and say, man, I want to get it out September 10th, I've been working, I'm going to scout the yard down, sling some seed, and just hope for the best.
Yep.
Then wait. You've got time.
Yeah.
If you can wait 2 weeks and you can actually get out there and prep the soil, get your aeration done, clean up those weeds, get the lawn ready, have a plan. And I tell people, like when they ask me, I'm like, have your plan that you're going to start September 1st You can always back up a week, 2 weeks. You know,
Yeah.
like, oh, hey, there's a tropical storm moving through. We're gonna get rain all next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, have your stuff ready to go, but planning on doing the prep. Get the prep done.
Yeah.
And yeah, the earlier the better, in my opinion. But I'm like Drew. I mean, if I've got to do it late October going into November, I'm going to do it, and I'm just going to know it's probably not going to be as good as I want it this year,
Yeah.
but it'll finish in the spring. You know, it'll pick back up.
Yeah.
But get the prep done. You know, like
Yeah.
plan it so you get your prep done. But yeah, earlier, if you get your prep done early, do it early and go.
Well, like y'all hit on, I mean, the most important thing that, you know, because we're turf guys by nature, but kind of a side note to that is we're all weathermen, right? And so it's like we have to really be, because like this year, we'll just take, you know, 2025 for example. There was really no starting. There are people starting now a little bit because we got some showers coming through, but prior to that rain, there was no way you were going to get a good aerification because the ground had gotten so hard from that drought. I mean, because that's another thing too. That's like there's a difference between aeration and a good aeration.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with how that soil is, what condition it's in.
Yeah.
Because getting through these summers with these droughts, man, you can really start. I mean, that's why like what Drew talks about that's so important is your organics and so really trying to, because if you don't have that stuff, you go out there on that soil, man, after a long drought like we just had. I mean, it's concrete, you know, it's concrete. And so, I mean, watch that weather, earlier the better, 100% agreeing on that, but got to make sure too that we don't jump the gun and go out there and not pull great cores and we really, because the ground's so hard.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, a couple last questions for you. How long should you wait to cut your grass after you've seeded or spray?
You don't want to damage that new fescue. I mean, that's kind of the most important thing. And every year it's going to be different because, hey, say that you hit it exactly when you wanted to. Let's just say we timed it up great. We put it down, and then 5 to 7 days later, we get a couple great rain days, and then we start, maybe let's say 10 to 13, 14 days, we have seed. It's probably going to be really immature, and these zero turns that we cut with are heavy. They're heavy machines. They get out there in that lawn and you're turning, you're tearing. What we don't want to do is get out there too early and really damage that fescue. And so I would say it all really depends on but if we still got, you know, immature seed on the ground and we still got seedlings on the ground, we probably don't want to go out there with the zero turn and start cutting that thing up.
Yeah. Any last thoughts?
I mean, I've always been, once you get it watered into the soil, if you need to get on it, just be careful. I mean, because we don't want the if you're doing existing grass, we don't want it to get 6 or 8 inches tall and shade the plant out. So do your prep, get it watered in, get it down to the soil. If you need to mow, good sharp blades, mow, careful turning, all those things. Like once you start seeing those sprouts, is kind of when you want to be careful. I'll go back to seeding tee boxes at the golf course. We'd overseed for winter just to have something to play on. But a real good superintendent friend of mine, we were talking about it one day, and he would go out once the seeds sprout, and you have the seedlings. He would go out there and just grab the tip of the seedling and pull up on it. If he pulled it out of the ground, he would stay off of it because it wasn't mature. If he could pull up on it and it would break in half, he's like, it's got enough roots now, I'm going to go mow.
She's good, yeah.
You know, because you couldn't let your tees get 3 inches tall. You know, you've still got play, you've got to do those things. But that was kind of his. He's like, I'll just pull on it. When it's established, and holds on, we're good.
Yeah.
Don't mow it wet.
Yeah.
That's good.
Sharp blades.
Yeah.
Careful turning.
Yeah.
All those things.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. I appreciate your expertise and your time. Guys, thank you very much for tuning in. This has been Dickens Turf Talk. If you want to find one of our 10 locations here in Tennessee, visit us at www.dickenssupply.com. You'll find us there. Tune in next time. See you later.